I'm nervous, man. I'll just start right there. I'm nervous about this game. I know the Niners are 10-point favorites. I know New England just got their doors blown off by the Jets, but they have more time to rest up. I thought they didn't establish the run or stay with the run last week. I think they will this week. That's a big physical running back. Brissett's not a great quarterback, but guess what? If you give him a run lane, he's really smart on knowing when to run. And if you play man to man and you turn your head, he will put the ball down and run. And, so he's a threat, and Pop Douglas is legit. They got two pretty good tight ends. Keon White is a monster up front. They got a good secondary, a couple of linebackers in the middle, make a bunch of tackles, probably a way, way, way better special teams unit than the Niners, including Marcus Jones, who I think could take one to the house. I'll take the Patriots in the points on Sunday. I don't feel good about it at all. How do you see it?
49ers -10 is too big of a number for me for how the Niners have started off this season. And I know that they're second in offensive EPA, and Brock Purdy's numbers to start the year have truly been elite. If you look at all of the top major statistical categories for quarterbacks, he's top 5, top 10. I think that he's been tremendous. Even in that Minnesota game, when he turned the ball over a little bit, he still had a much better performance against the Vikings than C.J. Stroud did the following week. And C.J. Stroud, by many, is looked at as a top 5 quarterback. So really for San Francisco, it hasn't been an offensive issue or issues to start the year, but this is not a team that's playing complementary football. It's not a team that's playing well in all three phases of the game. I think that San Francisco's defense has been pathetic. I think the special teams unit has actually been even worse. And some of the numbers are very troubling for San Francisco on the defensive side of the ball. But if there's an opportunity for this Niners defense to finally kick it into gear and to show that they can get back to playing at that 2022, 2021, 2019, 2020 form, it's this week against New England. And I know that the Patriots are a well-coached team. I like what Gerard Mayo has done. They've really exceeded expectations the first 3 weeks of the year. And Mayo has a really good defensive unit on that side of the ball, but the Patriots' offensive rankings are not good. So if San Francisco's defense struggles in this game, it is highly problematic and very, very concerning as we move forward. New England is averaging 13 points per game. That's 31st in the NFL. They are 32nd, dead last in yards per game at 246.3. Yards per play, 4.2. That's 30th. Their third down conversion rate is 23rd. They're only moving the chains at a 33.3% clip. They're 28th in red zone scoring, and they're scoring just one touchdown per game. Now, Ramondre Stevenson, you alluded to him a little bit earlier. He's a good running back, but he has 3 fumbles this year. So Fred Warner is going to be trying that peanut punch on him to try to force him to fumble the football and this generate some turnovers. But this is a Niners defense that cannot get after the quarterback. They are 26th in pressure rate. They are giving up about 55% of third downs. They can't stop the run. And what's so troubling to me, and this I think comes down to coaching and scheme, they've had so many breakdowns, whether it be schematic or communication breakdowns on that back end. And we saw Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay just smelling blood in the water last week because they knew they had the upper hand and they knew the weaknesses of this Niners defense. So if San Francisco's defense struggles again at home, coming off a heartbreaking loss to the Rams, to this Patriots team, it's not good moving forward.
Let's talk about the defense a little bit, because I think you're absolutely, I don't disagree with anything you just said there. And to me, the big question coming into this one is, what is Nick Sorensen going to do without Javon Hargrave in the middle? How do you compensate for not having the big man? Now, we can sit there and say, well, Hargrave wasn't worth the money, and Hargrave wasn't this, and Hargrave wasn't that. He's probably coming off one of his best games as a Niner. He's an interior pass rusher of note. He's a big athletic body that they just can't snap their fingers and replace. So what do you do if you're Sorensen? One, who's your fourth defensive tackle up with both him out, and now you've got Jordan Elliott with the foot injury. It sounds like his foot injury is not serious, or ankle is not serious, but it sounds like it may keep him out of Sunday. We'll find out later today. But if those guys both can't go, do you call Shaquille Brown, who you just signed on Wednesday off the practice squad? Do you call Evan Anderson and T.Y. McGill off the practice squad? I don't know what they do, but do you blitz? I mean, if you're Sorensen, I mean, what do you think, Chase? What's Sorensen's plan going to be to rush the passer now that his best interior rusher is not there and they weren't getting home when he was there?
Yeah, with them being 26 in pressure rate, now they get worse as far as their pass rush. And I know that Javon Hargrave had a couple of moments last year and this year where his effort was a little bit lackluster. And last week there was that clip that Kevin tweeted out of him not really doing anything on one of those long shots from Stafford to, I think that was, who was it that caught that ball at that time? Was just one of the explosive plays downfield. And maybe that had to do with the triceps, right? But like the thing with Javon Hargrave is that he had 5 pressures last week.
Demarcus Robinson, probably. I think it was Demarcus Robinson.
It was Tutu Atwell, actually. Tutu Atwell downfield. Javon Hargrave is one of the team's best pass rushers. 6 pressures, 5 pressures last week and a sack. And that's his specialty, is generating pressure on the quarterback. But San Francisco is 26th in pressure rate, as I noted moments ago. And now they lose one of their top pass rushers. And what are they going to do? Aren't a lot of options right now. You have Jordan Elliott, who's dealing with that foot injury. Malik Collins is more of that pass rushing defensive tackle. But as far as the backups go, you have Kevin Givens, you have T.Y. McGill, you have Shaquille Brown, you have Evan Anderson. The Niners are extremely thin at that offensive tackle spot. And that's been the case since going into training camp. So now they're even thinner there, which leads me to believe they have more than $50 million in cap space. Do they monitor the market going into November's NFL trade deadline? And do they try to once again make a big splash at the deadline like they did with McCaffrey, like they did with Chase Young, to address a weakness here and try to trade for a defensive tackle? I think they're going to see how things play out over the next couple of weeks. There is a scenario where maybe the Niners get better because they need more of a run-stuffing defensive tackle playing that wide 9, but there's also a case where they continue to struggle to get after the quarterback and they have to make a move at defensive tackle.
What do you think of the people who are critical of the scheme and say it's outdated and it's too simplistic? And I look at it, and before you weigh in, I look at it as a very vanilla scheme that gets a vibe with, having, you got to have great personnel. I mean, it's a get up the field, attack the quarterback. It's not real complicated. It's about having the talent. And I kind of wonder, if you don't have top tier talent and you run the wide 9, is it the best scheme if you don't have premier horses across the board? What do you think? What are you hearing about the wide 9? What do you think about the Niners defensive scheme overall?
Yeah, I did a full in-depth video on this on the Niners Report, and that video is up on the channel. And I looked at personnel changes that they could implement. I looked at schematic changes. I posed the question, is Nick Sorensen just in over his head? I think it's a little bit too early to tell on that front, because D'Amico Ryans did struggle a little bit the first month and a half when he took over for Robert Saleh as the team's defensive coordinator in 2021. But when the Niners hired Sorensen and then they hired Brandon Staley, I had kind of said at the time, is that the backup plan in case this doesn't work out? Because Kyle Shanahan goes from reaching out to Bill Belichick to be the team's next defensive coordinator. He politely declines. And then you settle for Nick Sorensen, who has only been a coordinator as a special teams coordinator. He's never called plays at the NFL level. And you have this team with Super Bowl aspirations in the Super Bowl window. The window is closing, and you're going to hire an inexperienced defensive coordinator. So I always thought that maybe the backup alternative plan was bringing in Brandon Staley in case it didn't work. But there have been mixed results as far as teams replacing coordinators during the year, and that would kind of be a panic move for San Francisco. As for the scheme, I don't necessarily think the wide 9 is outdated. You look at some of the top defensive coordinators in the NFL, Brian Flores, Steve Spagnuolo, Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz runs a wide 9. Now, he switches it up, and the Browns have great defensive personnel, but throughout his coaching career, he has run the wide 9 defense to success. The issue, though, is that when you spread out your defensive linemen, the thought with the wide 9 is to give their pass rushers an opportunity and lanes to rush the quarterback. Now, naturally, when you spread out your front 4, you leave vacant running lanes. And what the Niners haven't had really since the 2021 season, when they had DJ Jones, is that run stuffing defensive tackle to help plug those gaps. I know Malik Collins is a wide body, but he's looked at as more of a pass rushing defensive tackle. That's what he's been in his career. And so the Niners have really missed that. So I look at it as more of a personnel issue as far as the wide nine, because they haven't had those nose tackles, defensive tackles to plug the run lanes. At the same time, when you watch Brian Flores and how he mixes coverages and how he teases blitz or how he brings pressure, and you look at Steve Spagnuolo and how he gets really aggressive with corner blitzes and safety blitzes and the defensive system that he has, that does make Nick Sorensen's defense look pretty vanilla, and that's not a wide nine issue. But rarely do you ever see the Niners sending the house, teasing blitzes. I think that they can run some more twists and stunts. And so that's a little bit of an issue for me, is that you have these innovative defensive play callers like Brian Flores, Steve Spagnuolo, and Jim Schwartz. And Jim Schwartz runs the wide nine, but he runs multiple fronts and poses multiple different looks. And for San Francisco, it's like, hey, we want to get home with our front four, and then we'll drop 7 back, and that's how we'll play defense. Well, clearly it's not working well enough, and I think that Nick Sorensen has to get more creative, and he has to get a little bit more aggressive, because it looks like a different game with how the Niners have played defense as compared to how the Vikings, Browns, and Chiefs have played defense.
Chase Senior in the house on a Friday, and we're talking Niners, and of course in advance of Niners-Patriots coming up this weekend. I didn't even ask you, but you're out of harm's way. Tropical storm Helene. I know my daughter's out in Atlanta, so she's she's getting the brunt of it. You're in Texas. It didn't cruise through your neck of the woods, huh?
No, it's 75 degrees, bright blue skies, and absolutely beautiful today. So no hurricane coming our way, thankfully.
Yeah, this is a good time of year in Texas, as far as the weather goes. All right, let's get to if you're Sorensen. We talked about compensating for not having Hargrave. That's going to be really interesting. T.Y. McGill is going to be up. Jordan Elliott, we'll find out his status. Kalia Davis is not quite ready. It's probably going to still be a couple more weeks. So you'll see Givens, you'll see Collins, you'll see McGill, and probably Shaquille Brown. That would be my guess if Elliott can't go. But how about on the back end? If you're Nick Sorensen, do you make lineup changes? And here's the two that I'm thinking about. Tell me what you think. I would go with, I know, granted, it's early, but it's not that early. It's week 4. I would go with Renardo Green over Isaac Yiadom. Here's why. Renardo Green was a sticky man-to-man cover defender at Florida State. He's played a lot of man. If you watch Florida State, they play a ton of man coverage. To me, there's no doubt in my mind that Renardo Green is the 49ers' third best cover corner. He needs to play. Yiadom, Chase, has allowed 10 receptions on 15 targets for 123 yards, and he's given up a 131.3 passer rating when targeted. It's time for Renardo Green. That's one. Number 2, it's time for D. Winters to play over Devondre Campbell. Winters is faster. He's more instinctive. He's younger. He's better. The Niners are missing Dre Greenlaw so badly. His speed, his heart, but his ferocity is really what they miss. Campbell, though, Chase, has allowed 14 receptions on 16 targets. I mean, he's literally Roberto Duran, no moss, no moss. He's given up 149 yards receiving and a 126.3 passer rating when targeted. You got to get Winters on the field. You got to get Campbell off the field. You got to get Renardo Green on the field. You got to get Isaac Yiadom off the field. We saw it last year. They prioritized their free agent signings. Oliver over Deshaun Jameson. Wrong decision. That was the wrong move. I really don't want to see them. Don't make them. Don't multiply your mistake. You make an off-season evaluation. Okay, now it's in season. Don't go with your second best player to protect your goddamn off-season evaluation.
Right.
You drafted all these guys. You drafted D. Winters. If Winters plays over Campbell, your draft pick's playing over your signing. You drafted Renardo Green in the second round. if a second round pick is playing over your free agent signing, it's not like these guys are some other, some guy off the street. You don't look bad. You drafted and signed all the guys on the roster. Just play the best guys. I feel like at the beginning of the Shanahan era, they always played the best guys and they had no favorites. Now I kind of think Willie Snead is right. They do play favorites. They're trying to protect themselves as far as, well, we spent some of Jed's money on I don't care about that. I care about Winters is a better defender than Campbell, and I'm not taking it any further than that. I want to see these lineup changes. I want to see them right now. I don't think we're going to see them right now, and it makes me nervous. Give me your perspective.
Yeah, you were talking about passer rating when targeted. Quarterback rating when Devondre Campbell has been targeted is hovering around 125, and Isaac Yiadom is at 132.6. And Devondre Campbell was the holdover plan for Dre Greenlaw. That was always the plan. They had to move quickly with that position and with that roster spot after Eric Kendricks had spurned the Niners and he signed with the Dallas Cowboys. And it's not like he's been good for Dallas either. And I was high on Isaac Yiadom when the Niners signed him because this was a short-term contract worth little money. And when he stepped in for Marshawn Lattimore last year, he was a very highly graded corner. But for whatever reason, he's reverted back to the norm. And this is why he's been on multiple teams throughout his career since being a third-round pick. He's really struggled. And I thought in week 1 against the Jets, he had that big pass breakup on Garrett Wilson on that 4th down. But you had made such a fantastic point after that game that it was a little bit fluky, that Niners defensive performance, because they weren't on the field that much. Well, they've been on the field a lot against Minnesota. They're on the field a lot last week against Los Angeles, and they have been exposed. And what they need, I think, is an injection of energy, speed, physicality, swagger. But as you noted, talent. They are talent deficient right now. Devondre Campbell was targeted 11 times last week, and I think he gave up all 11 catches and nearly a perfect passer rating for Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay attacked the Niners' weaknesses. They smelled blood, and they attacked like sharks just smelling chum in the water. And it was fascinating to watch it in real time because you just saw that, especially when the Niners were in dime, Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford were just licking their chops. And D. Winters is a player who is extremely aggressive. And because of that aggressiveness, sometimes he over pursues, he takes himself out of plays, and he can give up big plays. But this is a player that you need to get on the field because I do believe that he has high-level potential in the future. And what do you get from D. Winters? You get speed, physicality, and he will just fly around from sideline to sideline. He only got a few snaps last week, but he made his impact felt within those snaps. And he's clearly a better option than Devondre Campbell. And part of the problem with the team being in a Super Bowl window, we're going to go with the veterans because they're experienced, and that's the safer option. Well, you're getting exposed with that right now. And I think that D. Winters and that speed and physicality is what you miss with Dre Greenlaw. He helps give you that. And then Renardo Green is a player who has good ball skills. He can play slot corner, outside corner. And it's time to get him on the field a little bit more to see what he can do. And he was a second-round pick. So while, yeah, you may have paid Devondre Campbell, you may have paid Isaac Yiadom, you used the second-rounder on Renardo Green. So see if he can play. And with what he's been able to do so far in limited action, he's passed the test as well. Led the ACC in pass breakups last year. He has good ball skills. He plays with the little nasty streak and swagger like Diamador Lenore has. And this is a defense right now, because they've been so bad, that's lacking confidence. And nobody's really bringing it outside of Fred Warner and Diamador Lenore. And I think that those young players will help inject an edge for this Niners defense that they desperately need. So I'm with you.
They need more speed on defense. I mean, they really do. And that Winter, you're not going to be able to replace the lack of ferocity when you lose a Dre Greenlaw. I mean, you're not, that's what makes Dre Greenlaw, I think, an all-pro talent, whether he's an all-pro player or not, as listed. We all know he's played like an all-pro player. But D. Winters is really fast, and you can replace the speed of Greenlaw with Winters.
Yeah.
So that's the route I would go. And I would go further than that. I think Campbell is not going to be happy here if he's not playing. And I would move on from Campbell. I really would. I would go in a different direction. I was looking at some of the other teams in the league and some of the practice squad players that they have. The guy that I really like that I would pluck is on the Chargers practice squad. His name's Jean Baptiste Jeremiah, or Jeremiah Jean Baptiste, I believe. And he played at Rutgers, or he played at Mississippi, Ole Miss. And really, really fast. 6'1", 230, he's 23, runs really, really well. Great athlete. Chargers did a nice job of stashing some good players on their practice squad. He's one of them. Or Kalen DeLoach, who got cut. He was a Florida State guy who got cut. He runs incredibly well, sub 4.5. They need speed. They need speed on defense. Okay, let's talk about a couple other things. What about Ronnie Bell? Ronnie Bell had a classic drop. And I would have cut him. Now, I would have cut him not because of that drop. I would have cut him because he's redundant. You don't need Ronnie Bell on this team. And you have to have receivers that complement one another. They need Terrace Marshall. They need Jacob Cowing. They need more speed at wide receiver. It was speculated, or the number came out, Kev had the stat. The 49ers are facing more stacked boxes than any team in pro football right now. My belief is that the teams are stacking the box because the 49ers don't have any speed at wide receiver, and they know that, the offensive line can't really hold up. And so they would they've seen Jordan Mason, so they'd much rather stack the box and dare Brock Purdy to throw it, because then, they may get turnovers. They may, the receivers don't get separation. He's throwing a lot of 50-50 balls. Other people have said, Krug, you're wrong. It's not about the Niners issues. The teams are doing that to the Niners, not because they don't believe in the receivers. They don't believe in Brock. It's a slide at Brock. I totally disagree with that, because I think Brock's playing at a really high level right now. What do you think? The facts are the facts. The fact is that the Niners are facing more stacked boxes than any other team in pro football. I'll throw it to you, Chase. You watch a ton of ball, and you don't just watch Niners. You watch Eagles and other teams. Why are teams stacking the box against the Niners in your estimation?
Stacking the box because they know that Jordan Mason is going to run in between the tackles, and he is a physical runner, and they know that they have to stop that running attack. And they saw what happened in week 1 when you can't. The Jets offense was barely on the field. And I think it's so under talked about when you dominate time of possession and the opposing offense is off the field, they just can't find a rhythm. And the Jets in that game could not find a rhythm, and they turned the football over twice, which could be partially due to them not being able to catch fire and catch a rhythm. So I think that's part of the problem. But the Niners right now offensively don't really threaten anybody in the pass game. We know about the lack of separation numbers. They're bottom 5 in the NFL, and they don't have a lot of vertical speed at the wide receiver position. Brandon Ayuk gave the Niners that vertical weapon last year. He was number 2 in the league in yards per catch after Tyreek Hill, second highest graded wide receiver in the league behind Tyreek Hill, but he's not taking the top off of the defense. And when you look at the film from last week, teams are kind of shading that safety over because they know he's the lone deep threat. Who else is going long? In addition to that, Christian McCaffrey isn't leaking out of the backfield. He's not lining up in the slot. So you don't have to devote coverage toward McCaffrey or defenders toward McCaffrey for the leak out on a swing pass, a screen pass, him coming out of the slot, him going in the flat, him kind of faking as a pass protector and then leaking out and running down the seam. There isn't that threat because Jordan Mason isn't that guy. He's improved with his pass catching ability, and we've seen that to start this year, but he's not Christian McCaffrey, who's a one-of-one type of player. And the Niners just don't have a lot of juice at that wide receiver spot. Ayuk has looked slow and sluggish and out of shape. Jawan Jennings is not a burner at all. He's a contested catch wide receiver who had a career performance last week and is probably the top number 3 wide receiver in the NFL. But Debo's not beating you over the top. George Kittle's not doing that. And you don't really have that player who you can throw a bubble screen to, and without Debo is going to be able to take it to the house, and you don't have that burner. So I think that the same conversation that we just had about the Niners going with older veteran players and Isaac Yiadom, Devondre Campbell, and not going with that injection of youth and speed with Renardo Green and with D Winters, the same can be said on the defensive side or on the offensive side of the football. We saw what Jacob Cowing did in the preseason. End arounds, going long, lining up inside, outside. He's dynamic. And for Kyle Shanahan to say, we don't think he's ready yet. To me, the eye test told me he was pretty damn ready during the preseason when he missed all of training camp, came back, had 1 week of practice. You put him into the game against New Orleans, and he's shaking and baking. He has that wiggle, the short area quickness, but also that long speed. Ronnie Bell is a slow receiver who's physical, who last year in the preseason played very well, but played well because he could pick up yards after the catch. He could be relied upon to catch the football. He's not dynamic in any way. And so I think it's important to get Ricky Pearsall back into the action. Next week, his practice window is probably going to open. That's a player who can beat press man and does have some of that good, nifty footwork to get open out of the slot or outside, get Jacob Cowing in the game. Ronnie Bell clearly doesn't have it. And it's a cool story for Brock Purdy to say, we all have Ronnie's back. Well, he cost you a football game. And we saw that coming because during the preseason, he also couldn't catch the football. And I know he had a couple of good training camp practices, but what do you do when it matters? Ronnie Bell is clearly pressing right now. He's lacking mental confidence, and he doesn't give you juice. And that's one of the key words today, juice. This Niners team needs juice. And if you play some of these young players, they have something to prove. They're going to be hungry, and they're better athletes in the current existing options.
Reminds me of the SNL skit. You like the juice, eh? I get you the juice. Remember Rob Schneider on SNL with the "You like the juice"? The juice is good. Okay. Couple other thoughts. The one thing I just read, New England is averaging only 3.3% turnover percentage. It's third best in the NFL. They don't score a lot of points, but they don't turn it over. And so when you face teams that don't turn it over, it's compounded if you do. So that to me is a major part of this game. They can't turn it over. They've got to figure out a way to possess the football and not turn it over because New England is not going to turn it over. Okay, here's one question I have for you. I like Jair Brown. I like Talanoa Hufanga. And I like Malik Mustafa. But I don't know if I like all three of those guys with George Odom and no free safety. You studied these guys. You went to the combine. You talked to a lot of these prospects, and I know you have a good knowledge of this stuff. Is Malik Mustafa have the ability to play coverage down the field, or is he a strong safety? And if he's a strong safety, isn't that a major problem for the Niners? Because Jair's better in the box. Hufanga's better in the box. If Mustafa's better in the box, who's Earl Thomas here? Everybody can't be Cam Chancellor. We need an Earl Thomas. Who is the Niners' best coverage safety? And if it's Mustafa, then he needs to get on the field like Sunday. Like one of the other two guys needs to sit and he needs to start if he can cover. But I don't know the answer to that question. What do you know about Mustafa as a coverage guy?
Yeah, I think it's been pretty interesting how the Niners have approached the last couple of drafts, knowing the player that Talanoa Hufanga is. And look, he's an excellent player who will put his hat on the ball. He's very instinctual. He can read and diagnose plays. But the Niners have kind of hidden him in pass coverage. And while he's an all-pro player and seems to be in the right place at the right time, making highly impactful plays, he is best when he's in that Troy Polamalu role, where he's the safety blitzer or he's playing hybrid linebacker. You don't really want him in the slot because he doesn't have the speed to defend the slot. And so the Niners have known this for a little while, and it speaks volumes how they've utilized him because they know he's a little bit limited. But then in the draft, they take Jair Brown, who is a similar type of player of a similar mold, who is very versatile like Talanoa Hufanga, but he thrives when he is also used in that type of role. Now, I do think that he does have good coverage ability, and I think that Jair Brown is a really good player, but then they take Malik Mustafa and they kind of triple down on the same type of safety. And now they're left without that safety who can be that center field ball hawk. And that's why I was bringing up names like Justin Simmons throughout the offseason, because I thought he would have been a good complement to some of the current existing safety options that they have. Now, when at Wake Forest, I do think that Malik Mustafa did a little bit of that. But if you want to talk about putting a player in a position to succeed, Hufanga, Brown, and Mustafa are more successful, and you can extract their best talents when you use them in that versatile way, and they can get exposed when they're on that back end having to play that center field free safety type of role. I think Mustafa has the range. I think Mustafa made some very impactful plays while at Wake Forest, but I don't know if he's that guy. And so we've seen that be an issue for San Francisco so far this year. And look, the root cause for the Niners, stopping the run and generating pressure on the quarterback. They're 26th in pressure rate so far, and that's a massive issue because if you can't generate pressure on the quarterback, they're going to have all day to survey the field, go through their progressions, and pick apart the defense. So that has really hurt the Niners on the back end because the pressure has led to these quarterbacks just having all day to throw. And so you have to stop the run. And there's a saying, like, you earn the right to rush the quarterback, and that's by stopping the run. So all of these issues have kind of compounded at once for the Niners. They can't stop the run. They can't get after the quarterback. And now their secondary has been exposed because they can't stop the run or get after the quarterback. So I think a lot of things can be solved if they stop the run and if they pressure the quarterback. That's easier said than done, but it just makes the secondary's job a lot easier when you can do those things. And when you talk about the Niners defense right now, they are not playing collectively well together at all. And that's why they've been exposed. That's why they're giving up explosive plays in addition to not sacking the quarterback or stopping the run. It's been bad. It's been bad.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, it wasn't that long ago that people talked about this defense with reverence, that people talked about this defense like there was no weakness. Yeah. Now you watch them and you're like, what's the strength? They're not stopping the run. They're not, like, there's too much space on screen passes. The linebackers, Campbell can't cover. Yadam's in constant trail position. They're getting verticals thrown over the top of their head. They don't look angry and ferocious tackling wise. They're falling off lots of tackles, missing lots of tackles. They don't seem like they've got consistent run fits. The safeties don't look like they can cover down the field. I mean, they look, and here's the biggest problem for Sorensen. His defense looks really, really slow.
Yeah.
And that is a major, major problem. So I don't know. I don't know what to, I don't know what to say, but defensively, if I said to you, what's the primary problem? Like, I would say the primary problem is once you're getting beat on verticals, that's the primary problem. Because, I mean, how do you blow anybody out if they can go up top on one pass? How do you blow anybody out if you have corners that guys, 4-4 guys? There's a 4-4 wide receiver on every team in the whole league. So if 4-4 guys are going to just blow right by Jair Brown and blow right by George Odom, blow right by Hufanga, then the Niners got to sit some of those guys down and get some faster guys in the field. It might be time to activate a Darrell Luter, who's bigger and faster and longer. You might want to activate all your corners and all the guys who can run, because they look slow. And to me, that's their biggest issue, is they're giving up the bomb.
Yeah.
What do you think? If I say number one defensive issue to you, what stands out?
Look, I think you make some really good points there. And I do think this is a league-wide issue. And I absolutely hate it as a consumer of football since I was like 4 years old. But with the NFL changing rules for how long practices can be, how physical practices can be, the lack of contact, tackling to the ground, and the fact that teams don't play any of their starters a lot during the preseason, nor do teams take it all that serious, the first month of the year is ugly football to watch. And I hate it as a consumer because it's not the football that these teams and players are capable of playing, but it's almost like in the first month of the season, it's an extension of the preseason, where teams are trying to figure out their lineups. They're trying to figure out their personnel. Players are not in shape. Players are getting injured left and right. And what that then leads to is a watered down product. And the NFL is still a cash cow. They're still crushing it. TV ratings are still great. Betting implications, fantasy implications, the fact that football has a stranglehold on every person seemingly in America. But this first month of the year, it's like teams are kind of like slow walking and sleepwalking through it. But when you watch this Niners team, it's like, do they have real issues or are they just easing into the year? I think they have real issues. And the issues are their front hasn't gotten home. They haven't been aggressive or creative on defense with blitz packages. So they've relied on that front four to get pressure on the quarterback. And outside of Nick Bosa, nobody really is. You then lose another talented pass rusher in Javon Hargrave. You have a linebacking core outside of Fred Warner that's been exposed in the pass game. And because you haven't generated a pass rush and you can't stop the run, you're biting on play action. Quarterbacks have all day to throw. Your cornerbacks and your safeties are all out of whack. There are communication breakdowns, scheme breakdowns on that back end. So teams are like, shoot, if they can't stop the vertical pass, if they can't stop the run, if they can't get pressure on the quarterback, this seized apart for us offensively, and we can really do whatever we want. And they continue to hit the Niners with explosive plays. So again, like, I don't think there's like one issue with this team right now defensively. I think there are a multitude of issues, and it's so odd to see a Niners defense struggle like this because we became so accustomed to seeing how dominant they were under Robert Saleh, under D'Amico Ryans, and they put up solid production under Steve Wilks. But now under Nick Sorensen, it's bad production, it's bad personnel, it's bad scheme. There are communication and scheme breakdowns, and like everything is hitting this defense at once right now, and they just can't do anything right. And it's a shame because that bad start has overshadowed how well Brock Purdy has played. He's been so elite, and it's taken away from what this offense has been able to do. And that's why the Niners are 1-2 right now, because they're not playing complementary football. And then Kyle Shanahan continues to not take special teams enough. So it's all three phases of the game that just aren't on the same page for the Niners right now.
No question. And I kind of wonder is if they don't play better on special teams, or if they have another major special teams gaffe, do you think, would they fire their special teams coach? I mean, it sounds like I mean, I know that sounds like knee jerk, but I don't know. I mean, if they lose 3 in a row, there will be there'll be some change. Either they'll yank the lineup around, or they'll fire the special teams coach, or they'll do something. They're not going to lose 3 in a row and do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't. I mean, you have to make some adjustments after that, whether it be personnel or it be coaching. And I thought Kyle Shanahan this week kind of called out Brian Schneider a little bit. And that special teams unit continues to hurt the Niners in the biggest of moments. And now it's happening in the regular season.
Let's share the screen real quick, and we'll do our football pick of the week here. We'll take a look at the action from week 4 in the NFL. I was a little surprised that Dallas beat the Giants because but I guess they own the Giants. But I thought the Giants were gonna maybe fire a decent effort. Is there a game in week 4 that you like wagering potential in? Is there anything that stands out to you? I can throw you the lines. I'll throw Saints at Falcons. Falcons -1.
That's a great game because both teams need a win.
Steelers at Colts. Steelers -1. Texans at home against Jacksonville -5.5. Green Bay at home against Minnesota -3.
That's interesting that the Packers are 3-point favorites there.
I know. I kind of like Green Bay there. Then there's Cincinnati looks terrible. They're against Andy Dalton in Charlotte. Cincinnati's 4.5-point favorites. Rams are getting 3 at Soldier against the Bears.
I think the Bears are a disaster.
Yeah, you can't go with the Bears. I mean, the Bears are good at home, though. I don't like betting against the Bears at home. Broncos Jets -8 at MetLife for the Jets. Eagles Bucks. Eagles are favored by 1 against the Bucks. Of course, they played in Tampa in the playoffs, and the Bucks took them apart. What do you think of that game?
It all depends on who can play for Philadelphia. Like A.J. Brown, Lane Johnson, and Devontae Smith might be out. And so their receiver core will just be shattered if those top two can't play. A.J. Brown returned to practice today, but you just don't know if he's going to play with the hamstring.
Is there a chance? I heard somebody suggest this week that the Eagles and Jets could trade Huff for Reddick and trade back.
Yeah, I could. It wouldn't shock me.
Well, and Reddick's not signed.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me because the Niners the Eagles, desperately need pass rush help. They played so well against the Saints last week, so I think they want to see how they played this week against Tampa Bay. Then they have an early bye week, so they're probably going to make a move if they make a move after seeing what they can do this week against Tampa Bay.
Okay, so what about the Niners? It's Niners minus 10.5, or you can take the Pats plus 10.5. You can get Niners minus 580 on the money line. You can go New England plus 440 on the money line. I'm tempted to take New England on the money line, man. Just at plus 440. That's incredible value right there.
I don't hate the Patriots.
I think the Niners have real problems, and I think this New England team is better than you think, and may not be the best fit to play right now. I kind of like Pats on the money line.
I don't hate Patriots and the points. Plus 10.5 is a lot for a team that is flawed right now in the Niners and just not playing well.
Let's take Pats plus 10.5, and we'll parlay it with something else. Is there anything else that you like this week? I mean, Raiders are at home favored. I can't imagine that. What about Baltimore at home against Buffalo? It's Baltimore -1.
One of these undefeated teams has to lose at some point, like Minnesota on the road against Green Bay, and then Buffalo on the road against Baltimore. That's a big spot for Baltimore. I don't hate the -1 there.
It's a night game.
Yeah, it's Sunday night.
Yeah. I like Baltimore -1.
What a doozy on Monday night. Titans, Dolphins. My goodness.
So I'll go Patriots plus 10, Ravens -1. I think I'm going Green Bay. I got a vibe on Green Bay. I think Green Bay looks good to me. Let me throw that in there. Green Bay. And we'll wager on this. Okay, so I'll go Green Bay minus the. Well, do I want Green Bay? Yeah, I'll do minus the 3. So those 3-point spreads always make me kind of nervous.
Yeah, they're
okay,
tough.
So I got to put in the money. Okay, so here we go. We'll risk 20, and we'll on that one. Oh, wait a second, 20 here. We'll put 20 on this. We'll risk 20 on the Ravens, and we'll go 20 on the Packers. So we'll see. Now we'll see what it says. Oh, wait a second. I got to put down the Patriot money. There we go. $20. All right. Let's place the bet. Wait. Hold on. I got to do it again. There we go. Wait. Risk 20. Okay. Now we're set.
Now we're cooking.
Do we have it? Wait. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So we are risking. We're risking. We could potentially win 54-18. So are you looking for a new book this football season? BetUS is the answer. With BetUS, you get the fastest payouts in the industry and easy withdrawals, live wagering on all major games. Plus, you get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. On top of that, you also get your own personal account manager. All you got to do is head over to betus.com, use the promo code YouTube150. You'll get 150% sign-up bonus in your first deposit, off your first deposit, and 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000. Again, sign up at betus.com, use the code YouTube150 to claim that offer. All right, couple last ones before we get to some supers, and we'll say goodnight. Yesterday, I thought the most surprising thing that I heard at the podium was Chris Forster, the offensive line coach, when he was asked about Isaac Guerendo, it's like, he looks great. He looks fantastic. And it's like, okay, he clearly does not. But he has no instincts. But you know what? Chris made a point. If you get this guy, he goes, I'd really love to see him out in open space. Yeah, exactly. If you get him out of, he's got to make a decision in a phone booth, and, the more space you have, the less skilled you are as a runner, cutter with vision, the more you value being out in open space where you don't have to make those decisions. And I just think if Guerendo's not a pick and slide between the tackles guy, but man, he is big, strong, fast. And without McCaffrey, they need that big playability out of the backfield. I think this is the game chase that they get him the ball in space, either as a receiver or as a runner, maybe on a halfback toss. But I think Guerendo is going to make some big plays. I think he's on the verge of a bust out. What do you see?
Yeah, I know Scott McCloughan didn't like the draft pick when the Niners took him and traded up in the 4th round. Right. I liked it, and I think part of the reason why he looks a little bit hesitant, dude just hasn't played a lot of football. Like, he started one game in his college career, and the only start that he had was in his final game of his college career in the bowl game. But 6 feet, 220, runs a 4.3. We saw that getaway speed in the preseason against the Raiders with that kick return, which was so dynamic. I actually liked what I saw when he ran the ball in limited reps against the Raiders. And I thought that he was able to kind of see hole, hit hole. And he did run with some decisiveness. A couple of weeks ago, didn't have it. And then he had one carry last week where I'm like, okay, he ran with a little bit of pop there. I like it. I like the halfback toss idea. I like that stretch play. You get him outside that tackle box, and I think that he can use that speed and that physicality, and he does have an ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. That is something that he did at Louisville. He made some nice catches downfield on some wheel routes. So with this youth movement for the Niners, they're feeling it out. They've played a lot of veterans to start this year. Please get D Winters on the field. Give me some juice. Let me see Renardo Green. Let me see Jacob Cowing. Let me see Isaac Guerendo. Let's see what some of these young players can do, because clearly the Niners need that injection of youth and athleticism, because they've looked like a slow, mundane team. And look, this is a Niners team that's played a lot of football, 4 NFC title appearances, 2 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. They've had shorter off seasons. The veterans might be hurting right now. They might be trying to ramp it up, and they're also dealing with the mental fatigue of some of these losses. These young dudes, they're ready to go, and they're ready to, I think, impact this team if they get some reps. But the thing with Kyle Shanahan, he has such a short leash for some of these players and lacks trust, where if they have one bad play or 2 bad plays, he's like, I just can't trust him, put the veteran in there. He's got to be more flexible here. And outside of Jordan Mason, who are you going to run at that running back spot? Give Isaac Guerendo some carries. I think that he can impact the game.
Ricky Pearsall's practice window could open next week. He could be back as soon as next week against Arizona. That would be exciting. One last one, there's a lot of speculation in Philly that the Eagles may dump Sirianni if they don't have a good year. And you have people reporting here that if the 49ers don't have a huge year and win the Super Bowl, that Lynch and Shanahan could be on the hot seat. I can't picture that at all, but maybe sometimes I think, you know what, Krueger, you're a little too close to it. You're here every day. So I'll ask you, because you're not too close to it and you're not here every day. And this is one advantage, I think, of covering the team from afar, is I think you can see the forest through the trees. You can have a little bit more perspective sometimes when you're not immersed in it. So what do you think, Chase? I mean, you're as knowledgeable as anybody on the Niners. If the Niners don't win the Super Bowl, do you think there's any scenario that they have regime change here in San Francisco? I can't imagine it. I can't picture it. I know others have reported it with sources. It hasn't been reported nationally by anybody or locally outside of a couple people saying, hey, I've got a source here or there. What do you think? Is there pressure on Shanahan and Lynch this year in any way? Is there anything that could happen out of this season that would result in them not being back running this team a year from now?
I think it would be completely idiotic and stupid for Jed York to fire Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. The Niners have one of the most recognizable brands in all of sports. They have brought in a ton of revenue. And when you're able to host playoff games, you bring in more revenue via ticket sales, merch sales. And I know that the 49ers haven't won the ultimate prize since 1994, but look at what they've done as an organization. They've made it to 7 NFC championship games in 14 years. They've been to 4 NFC titles in 5 years and 2 Super Bowls. And the team that they've lost to both times coming down to the wire, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I know that they've been ugly losses, but you're losing to a generational team, one of the best offensive minds in the history of football, and a quarterback who's quickly becoming one of the top quarterbacks in the history of the game. And so if you move off of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, you have one of the most well-respected and most well-run organizations in the sport. And The Athletic a few weeks ago asked agents around the league what the top front offices are in the NFL. The Eagles and the Niners tied for number one. And then they did another survey when they asked executives and coaches around the league what the top front offices were. And the Niners were third behind the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. This is consistently, perennially a top 5 organization in the game. I know Kyle Shanahan has flaws. I wish that he would take more accountability and more ownership over the Niners' failures. I wish that he would make some more adjustments. At the same time, if he were to get fired at noon, he would have a job by 6 across the NFL. Andy Reid was in Philadelphia for 14 years. He made it to 1 Super Bowl. He got fired the next day. He's hired by the Kansas City Chiefs. And look at what's happened. So you have to be careful what you ask for here. Do you want to go back to the Jim Tomsula, Chip Kelly, Mike Singletary days? How disastrous would that be?
No.
You have one of the top offensive minds in the game. You have a great general manager. You have a loaded roster. And if you move off of Kyle Shanahan, what, you're going to re-sign Brock Purdy and have him start anew with a new head coach? That would make no sense. Firing Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch would be what David Tepper and the Carolina Panthers do. That's what a poorly run business or organization would do. Apple has made great products for so long. They don't reach their climax for one fiscal year and they're like, CEO, we'll see you. No, you're still the leader, right? As far as like technological phone companies go. So the Niners would just be downright idiotic to move off of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. I don't see why that would make any sense at all.
I didn't realize this. We'll get to a couple of these supers, but I didn't realize this, Chase. But did you know that there are 12? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There are 11 connections between this Niner team and this Patriot team. Can you, I mean, I think obviously Kendrick Bourne's an easy one, right? Kendrick Bourne played for the Niners, now with the Patriots. Can you name any of their other connections besides Kendrick Bourne?
Oh, man.
Seriously.
As far as roster talent goes, outside of Kendrick Bourne, I'm struggling to figure out another player who has Niners ties.
JaMychal Hasty.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, JaMychal Hasty was a Niner. But listen to all these ties between the Niners and the Patriots. Pat's offensive line coach, Scott Peters, played for the Niners in 2004. Pat's quarterback coach, T.C. McCartney, served as the offensive assistant with the Niners in 2015. Bob Bicknell is the Pat's tight end coach. He was the Niners wide receiver coach in 2016. Taylor Embry, the Pats running back coach, was the Niners quality control coach in 2017 through 2019. Ben McAdoo, former head coach, is now the Pats offensive assistant. He was a Niners offensive line assistant coach in 2005. Mick Lombardi was a Patriots scouting intern. He's now an offensive assistant with the Niners. Leonard Hankerson played for the Patriots in 2015. Kendrick Bourne, JaMychal Hasty, Christian Ellis, linebacker for the Patriots, played for the Niners in 2021. And Joey Sly. I never would have gotten that either. Pat's kicker was the Niners kicker for a short amount of time in 2021. Yeah. That is a surprising list right there to me. All right, let's go with the supers and then we'll bolt for the door. Steve says, best show out there. B-Rob or Ayuk in my flex spot, off the wall question, but I value your football minds highly. Keep up the great work. Brian Robinson or Ayuk in my flex spot. Here's my theory on that. Unless it's a heavy weighted PPR deal for receptions, I like going with the running back over the receiver. Especially because the receiver, especially on a team like the Niners where the receivers don't always get the ball. And there's a lot of different weapons. Also, I
Here's
like
some
Brian
good insight
Robinson.
too.
I told Kev, that we should get Brian Robinson. He's like, Brian Robinson stinks. Like a couple weeks in, he's already like, Dad, that was pretty smart to get Brian Robinson. Yeah, thanks. So there you go.
Here's this too.
I say Brian Robinson.
Yards on 10+ yard throws. The Niners have the most at 581. The fewest, the Patriots at 84.
Wow. There you go. Matthew Waring says CMC loves football. He's not retiring. I think he's doing stem cells, not PRP. Stem cells take months to work, but his magic. He probably did it to avoid surgery and play long term. Bang bang. Well, I think all that's probably right. He probably is looking for some path to avoid surgery. And let's be honest. I mean, that surgery. There's been huge advancements in that surgery, but full Achilles rupture on a running back has got to still be a career-altering type injury.
No doubt.
Matthew says, with the current separation the wide receivers are getting, thank God we have a guy that throws the 50-50 ball with such confidence and precision.
Facts.
Yeah, no question about that. And HR says, you got Chase up in this piece. We miss you on them Warriors updates, Chase, on Chat Sports. You're the GOAT Warriors analyst. Spin the wheel. Spin the wheel is a thing that you do on the channel, right?
Yeah, so like we do like a raffle wheel. So if somebody were to spend like a $20 super chat, we spin a wheel and whatever it lands on, we do like a different challenge. Or if somebody sends in a $20 super chat and we're giving away a 49ers Report football at the end of the show, everybody who sent in that super chat is in the running for that. We'll spin the wheel to determine a winner. But yeah, I haven't talked Warriors in a long time. But
Give me your over-under number on the Warriors. Come on, they're gonna be bad. I think
they're
the Warriors are
500
crazy.
team.
The Warriors are totally crazy. They're saying that they've gotten better in the offseason.
I don't think they have.
Steph Curry's older. Draymond Green's older. They're the best players on the team. That alone means that unless you offset that with some significant additions, you're not better. And DeAndre Melton is not what I would call a significant addition. And don't tell me about slow-mo either. Buddy Hield. I actually like Buddy Hield, but I don't like slow-mo.
Yeah, I mean, so for the Warriors to not be a 500 team, I think you're going to have Jonathan Kuminga play at like a borderline all-star level, and you're going to have Brandon Podjemski take a massive leap. Other than that, I think they're floating around 500, and they'll be carried by Steph Curry, and that's just not sustainable at his age.
And what will you do on chat around Warriors?
I haven't done Warriors stuff in a long time. I kind of was doing that during the summer, but now I'm just like full NFL right now. So I'm not doing Warriors updates now, but it's everywhere from like news, analysis, breakdowns, just talking Warriors every day. I helped grow that channel, and then I helped lead it once again over the summer because it was a huge off season. But now that I'm just balls deep in NFL stuff, I just don't have much time for it. So one of our
all right, man, good stuff. I'm going downstairs to visit with Shanahan. I'm saying 49ers get it done, but I think it's really close. I think it's like 24-21. I think the Patriots are with the points is the angle. And if the Pats won, I would be surprised, but not shocked. And it would be a very depressing thing if it happens. But I like the Niners to win, but more of an escape with a win. I don't think we're going to be sitting there going, they're great on Monday. I think we're going to be saying they won, but, here come the Cardinals and you know what I mean?
Yeah, 26-17 is kind of what I'm thinking. Like, I don't think the Niners covered the 10.5.